Cameron Chaney, author of Autumn Crow, and welcome back to Library Macabre. Today I have part 2 of my June book haul for you. Part 2 of my June book haul. You heard that correctly. Hello. Post-production Cameron here. Yeah, this video really was shot back in July as I was wrapping up my June book haul. So it's been a very long time since I filmed this video. After I filmed it, I got full time at my job and I just have been very behind on videos. That being said, it has been several months since I filmed a book haul, so I do have piles and piles of books to show you guys, so you can expect many more book hauls from me in the near future. So without further ado, let's get into part 2 of my June book haul. Not too long ago, I posted part 1 where I showed you all of the vintage horror paperbacks that I got. In this video, I'll be showing you all of the vintage middle grade and YA horror books. As always, I'm going to start with the books that I received as gifts first. So this first one is from Ellie, who is a viewer of the channel. Hey Ellie, she sent me a copy of Horror High book number 4. This one's called The New Kid on the Block by Nicholas Adams. A couple months ago, I did a bookshelf tour showing all of my vintage young adult horror books, and I have quite a few books from the Horror High series by Nicholas Adams, and Ellie saw in that video that I was missing a copy of book 4, so she actually found this at a bookstore for me and offered to send it, which was really nice of her because I recently read book 1 in the series and I would really like to continue on reading the rest of the books. So now, thanks to Ellie, I have the first 5 books. I'm missing book 6, and then I have book 7, and I need to get book 8 still. The tagline on this is, "She's smart, she's fun, she's a killer." Ellie also sent me a copy of The Rain Ghost by Gary Kilworth, and I didn't know she was sending this to me, so it was kind of a surprise. This is a book in the Point Horror series, and this was published in, I think, 1990. It was originally published in 1989. This edition was published in 1990. And the back of this says, "Steve is being followed, watched. Something is waiting for him. Something is coming to get him. Steve is being haunted." Usually I love the cover art on these books, but this one is so goofy. Like, I don't even know what this stance is. Is this like a ghost standoff stance? Like, I don't know, but it's pretty goofy. I kind of love it at the same time, even though it's bad. So thank you for both of these, Ellie. I truly appreciate it. Next, I received a package from Michael Bailiff, and he is a fan of the channel, but he is also the creator of Witching Season films, which I'm actually a big fan of. His films have that whole like vintage Halloween atmosphere that I love. I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel where he posts short films, and he has like these Halloween atmosphere videos where it's really good ambiance for writing and for reading. You can also see his films like on Amazon Prime, and I didn't realize that he was a fan of my channel, and he suddenly became a patron of mine over on Patreon, which was so cool. And he sent me a message and said he wanted to send me some stuff. So first off, just a little thing I wanted to show you. He sent me a Goosebumps card, which I didn't even know they made these. He sent me a bunch of books as well, but he also sent me his films on Blu-ray, which was really cool. So he actually signed these for me. So first we have The Witching Season, which is this Halloween horror anthology series, and it's really cool. I've actually been a big fan of these short little films since they first came out, so it's really cool to now have them on Blu-ray and to have a signed Blu-ray. Very cool. And then here is his feature film, which is called They Live Inside Us. I love the artwork on these covers, by the way. They are so cool. And actually, the guy who did the artwork on these is actually the same person who did my Fear Street t-shirt that I have and my Christopher Pike t-shirt. He's really cool, so go to Sadist Art Designs and look at his artwork. It's really killer. It's some really, truly awesome stuff. But anyway, this is a book haul, and he sent me quite a few middle grade horror books. So this first one here is called Ghost Eye by Marion Dane Bauer. And I actually remember reading this when I was in elementary school. It's been a really long time, but I checked out the same book from the library. And this is actually about a cat that can see ghosts. And I'm really looking forward to rereading this because it has been so long. And of course, with all of these like 90s middle grade books, there's a lot of really cool illustrations on the inside. So yeah, very excited to revisit this. He sent me a couple of books that I didn't even know about. So this one's called Ghosts Don't Get Goosebumps by Elvira Woodruff. And this is just another spooky middle grade book. Again, we've got a bunch of illustrations all throughout the book, so I'm looking forward to reading this. Here's another one I hadn't even heard of before. This one's called 6 Haunted Hairdos by Gregory Maguire. And I'm pretty sure this is the same Gregory Maguire who wrote Wicked. And the back of this says, if you ever see a ghost, you must do 3 things. 1, pinch yourself to make sure you're awake. 2, pinch the ghost to make sure it's real. And 3, run away as fast as you can. I actually did not know that Gregory Maguire ever wrote middle grade books, but there you go. He also sent me a copy of Phantom Valley, The Headless Ghost. This is a series from, I think 1991 was when the first book came out. This one came out in 1992, and I always called it a Goosebumps knockoff, even though it actually came a little bit before Goosebumps. So the back of this one says, just how much do Jenna, Rob, Deirdre, and Jeff want to be members of the Shadow Club? Enough to go into a spooky old cabin filled with bats? Enough to go through a terrifying initiation? Do they want it enough to confront a headless ghost? Belonging to the Haunted Shadow Club sounded great to these 4 friends, but now they wonder if they're in too deep. He also sent me an original copy of The Monster's Ring by Bruce Coville, who is one of my favorite authors, and this was one of my favorite books when I was a kid. This is a Halloween story about this kid who puts on this ring that he buys from a magic shop, and it starts to turn him into a monster on Halloween. So this is actually a lot like the Haunted Mask from the Goosebumps series, but this actually came many, many years before the Haunted Mask. So take that as you will. And lastly, he sent me a copy of the 3rd book in the Bailie City Monsters series. This one's called Vampire Trouble. So I've always been a big fan of the Bailie School Kids books. This is actually a spin-off series from that, and it focuses a lot more on the monsters. So while the Bailie School Kids books are a little more ambiguous and gray, you don't really know if the characters are actually monsters or just regular people who have monstrous qualities. In this series, you're following strictly monsters, like it's a city of monsters. I've not read this one yet, but I'm really excited to try the series out. I mean, I know I would love to live in a city of monsters. I don't know about you. Michael also sent me a couple of posters, so it was just a really great package. So Michael, thank you so much. I'm a big fan of your work, and it's an honor for you to be a fan of my channel, so thank you so much. All right, and now we're gonna go on to the books that I bought in the month of June. So this first one here is something really cool. I am so lucky to have a copy of this. I didn't think I would ever be able to find one. It did cost me a little bit. It cost me about $30, which is a lot more than I would spend on, you know, an average Fear Street book, but this was worth it. So here we have Fear Street Double Date. And this is a 1st edition, 1st printing. It's in really, really nice condition. This also has the temporary tattoos still intact in the middle of the book. I hardly ever see these pop up with the temporary tattoos still intact. So I am so glad to have this, to add this to my Fear Street collection. So this one is about this guy right here who is dared to start dating this set of twins. So he starts dating this one and is like, oh, I love you. I'm gonna dump the other one, don't worry. And then he'll say the same thing to the other twin. And of course this causes a lot of jealousy. And I figure things are not gonna work out very well for this guy. Here's another Fear Street book that I bought, and if you watched my Fear Street reading vlogs, you probably already saw this, but this is Fear Street Halloween Party. This is one of my favorite books in the series, and this is actually the UK edition. I ordered this from World of Books USA. I have never had a UK edition before. I prefer the US cover to this one, but I still love this cover, and I just had to have it. And there's actually quite a few really good Fear Street UK covers. So I may end up buying more eventually just because they're cool and I love Fear Street. So yeah, I gotta have them. Along with that, I ordered Slumber Party by Christopher Pike. I already have the US edition of this, which is part of the Point Horror series. I really enjoyed the book. It's not my favorite Christopher Pike, but I still enjoyed it. And I love this UK cover. I actually ordered the other UK cover, which looks like this. I thought I was gonna be getting that one, but instead this one arrived, and I actually like this cover even more. So I do like the other cover, and I would also like to eventually have that one too, but I'm happy with this one. This is really cool. This is actually the one that's featured in Paperbacks from Hell, so just glad to have this. Speaking of Point Horror books, I have quite a few here. I hit the jackpot. So there's an Etsy seller called Launchosaur, which I highly recommend you go check out. Their page is awesome. They sell a lot of vintage horror, and they had a set of American point horror books, and these were all first printings in really nice shape, and I had to order them. So here we have Teacher's Pet by Richie Tankersley Cusick. This is one that I was missing, and I've been wanting it for a very long time, so I was glad to get a first edition. I just love that cover art. That is just freaking awesome. Here's another Richie Tankersley Cusick. This one is April Fools. It's another first edition, and I did have this one when I was a kid. Don't know what happened to it. It must have gotten lost at some point. But yeah, this one, of course, is about April Fool's Day. And another one that I ordered from that seller is a first edition copy of Final Exam by A. Bates. I also got quite a few UK point horror books. So, of course, the Point Horror Unleashed series is a UK exclusive series. We did not get these here in the US. So I ordered The Ghost Wife by Susan Price and Transformer by Philip Gross. Ghost Wife is actually pretty rare. I've seen this go for a lot of money online, but I actually got this for only $7, which is a pretty good deal. Let me be near you, Joni. Share your warmth with me. You do love me, don't you, Joni? You better love me. I didn't mean to hurt you, Joni. I just get so scared. I've got nobody but you, and you're alive. I wish I was alive, because I love you, Joni. I'll never let you go. I love you to death. That's literally the synopsis and the reason why I love point horror books so much. Next, we have a couple books from the regular point horror series, and these are also UK editions. So here we have The Bride by D.E. Afkins, and I ordered this from World of Books USA, and it was supposed to be in like new condition, but there's like spine creases. The spine is very, very faded, and there's just lots of edge wear. But I'm just glad to have a copy of this because this is a really rare book, and the US edition is also very rare. I do prefer the US cover a little bit more. It's just a lot creepier, but again, I'm just happy to have a copy of the book. And then we have Driver's Dead by Peter Larranges. This is another one that was supposed to be in like new condition, and it's got all kinds of creases, spine creases. There's a big mark here where somebody sat their mug on the book, so they used it as a coaster, which is never cool. Don't do that to your books. So they're supposed to send me a replacement of this as well, but we'll see. Here's another rare one. I was really shocked to see this on Etsy. I had to buy it right away. It was already added in a bunch of people's carts, so I was able to snag it before somebody else did. Thank God. So here we have Prom Night by Jesse Osborne. This book was published by Avon Flare in 1995. Avon Flare books are super, super rare. It's hard to find a lot of these, especially this one. Like, I had never heard of it before. I had never seen it online. This is the first time I'd ever seen it before. And I looked it up after I bought this, and I wasn't really able to find a copy anywhere. So yeah, it looks like I grabbed the only copy in existence. I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure there are more out there just waiting to be discovered, but I'm glad I got a copy of this. Kim and her committee have transformed an empty room into a shimmering wonderland of silver streamers and romantic fantasy for prom night. It's a night to die for, except Kim isn't ready to die. She's ready to dance, but a killer is waiting. Someone who likes to follow Kim down dark roads and phone her late at night. Someone who has killed before and is stalking the next victim in the promise of a moonlit night. Sounds so good. And I'm a big fan of Prom Night with Jamie Lee Curtis, and especially Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. That's one of my favorite horror slashers, my favorite supernatural slasher. So I'm really pumped to read this. Of course, this has nothing to do with the movies, but still, it's a horror slasher called Prom Night, so it's close enough. And last but not least, I was able to grab a couple of books by Joan Lowery Nixon, who doesn't necessarily write horror. Her books are more like mystery thrillers for teens, but they have some supernatural elements sometimes, and a lot of the books share a lot in common with Lois Duncan's books, so I can kind of categorize them as horror. So first off, we have Murdered My Sweet. And I got both of these from a thrift store for only $1 each, so it was a pretty good deal. Next we have Spirit Seeker. So obviously we have the whole psychic angle, which I think a lot of Joan Lowery Nixon's tend to have some supernatural elements thrown in, like there's one called The Seance, there's one that she wrote about a stalker, and a lot of her books are just very creepy looking. So I'm excited to read more of her work. I really haven't read much of her books. I think I started reading one when I was a kid, which was called The Ghosts of Now, but Other than that, like, I haven't actually read any of her work. So I'm excited to get into some of her books. And if you are a fan of Joan Lowery Nixon, please let me know. I need your expertise. Let me know which book I should start with, if either of these are good ones to go for. I have a couple more of her books, so I have a couple that I can choose from. But I would really like to get a copy of The Seance and The Stalker, because those look really creepy. Anyway, there you go, guys. That is my young adult and middle grade horror book haul. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please don't forget to give me a like if you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought of these books. If you've read any, what your thoughts are, I would really appreciate it. And if you don't have anything to say, just say, hey, creep. That works too. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode of Library Macabre. Later, creeps.